Thank you, Senator Rubio, and thank you to the Congressional Executive Commission on China and to the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission for organizing this important hearing today. I commend our panelists for their courage and thank them for being here today. Since 2011, China has spent more money on controlling its own population than on defending against foreign powers. According to some sources, China's annual spending on domestic stability maintenance, as they call it, its police state apparatus, frankly, now surpasses defense spending by nearly 17%. Mr. Zhou, does stability maintenance effectively dampen dissent, or has it sparked resentment against the state?
That's true on both fronts. It creates more enemies, more people who suffered from such measures of so-called stability maintenance. But on the other hand, it also suppress people's opinion. Yeah, and with the digital technology now, it's really hard to associate even a small group. So that's a really big challenge for the people on the ground now. We have intimate connections with all of them. It's really a very dark time for them, especially with the new technology.
So you would say that this has fostered dissent and resentment and disassociation on all fronts, correct?
Yeah, but on the other hand, it does repress effectively. It's very difficult to organize now.
Thank you, thank you. Since 1997, Hong Kong has fostered respect for the rule of law, for human rights and personal freedoms as an autonomous special administrative region of China. However, China has aggressively sought to erode civil liberties in Hong Kong, including by harassing the operators of a museum commemorating the 1989 massacre. Professor Minsner, how can the United States support efforts to combat China's bullying tactics in Hong Kong?
That's an excellent question, and I think Congresswoman Wagner, you highlighted Hong Kong as an excellent issue to focus on, precisely because as the space erodes, as the space that once existed in China erodes, it's directly affecting Hong Kong as well. And it's not just sort of individual building of, it's the arrests of the bookshelf seizures of people in Hong Kong, bringing them into mainland China. It's the erosion of the norms with respect to electoral practices. It's this proposed extradition law that's going through. I certainly think congressional concern on this issue is something that at least triggers interest in Hong Kong, precisely because of Hong Kong's trade status.
Right.
The question is, what does that mean for Beijing? Is this something that's sufficiently, that I'm not entirely sure, but that's clearly, you're seeing delegations of folks from Hong Kong who are coming to the United States right now focused on this, and I would be expecting, to the extent that some of you are on the Foreign Affairs Commission, that's probably one of the top issues. That
I want Beijing to know that we are watching what they are doing in Hong Kong very, very closely. I understand that China's concentration camps in Xinjiang province, where an estimated, as we've heard already, 1 million Muslim Uyghurs have been detained, are evolving now into a forced labor system. Mr. Wu Kai-shi, how can the international community deter the creation of a gulag in Xinjiang province?
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. I think, as I said earlier, there were time to express concern, there were time to make condemnations, there were time to harsher punishment. And then there are also time to know how to hurt your opponent. So when you know when they hurt, they react a little bit reasonably. Being 30 years living in exile as a political dissident, that's one important lesson we learn. Outside pressure works. But what is the outside pressure that would work today? The Chinese government have grown its ability, just like you just mentioned, to suppress the dissent within China with their enormous expenditure. And then also the confidence that comes from the international community. When a trade delegation goes to Beijing and to negotiate the access of a market and investment, and at the same time raise the question of human rights, but not waiting for an answer for it, that sends a very wrong message to the Uyghur, to the Chinese regime, and also, unfortunately, to Uyghur people too. So what I'm saying at this time, we have long passed the places that we should go like a condemnation. We have long passed that. Direct pressure on the people who make those decisions. I'm talking about Xi Jinping. I'm talking about the governor of the party chief of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, and apply the Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act seems at this point the only resort left for the United States. You said we are watching, you know what, yes, I think Chinese...
We need to be doing,
yes,
is what you're saying. I thank you.
Yes.
China has begun implementing a vast social credit system, a dystopian system of punishments and incentives intended to encourage, quote, good behavior. Ms. Kalutil, how did Tiananmen inform the creation of the social credit system, and how is it being implemented?
I think in a broad sense, what Tiananmen served to illustrate for the CCP was that information was something that could be very powerful if used against them, but if managed properly, it could be a powerful asset as well. And so in the years following the Tiananmen Square massacre, I think the party was even more careful to try to put in place, well in advance, mechanisms that would guide the direction of information technology. When I was a reporter in Hong Kong, I saw this unfolding in the 1990s with the so-called Golden Projects. This predated the Great Firewall as we knew it, and then eventually evolved into it. And now what we're seeing with the social credit system, or systems, because they're still overlapping and not quite formulated yet, you do see a vision for social management that I think has been there from the beginning, but now the tools are gradually falling into place with which to implement it. I don't think that it's quite there yet. I think that a lot of what has been discussed about this system may not be fully implemented in reality, but simply understanding the intent is useful, I think, because there is really a large possibility of wide-scale harnessing of data to manage society in ways that we just haven't really conceived of yet. We're starting to see the outlines of that now, and I think were it to really be implemented both within China and elsewhere around the world, it would be a truly chilling for democracy.
It is chilling. My time has expired. Again, I thank all the witnesses for their courage and due diligence. I yield back.